Hey everyone, this is Arsenal Fan Circle, Season 2, 43, the never-ending season. Well, the season just ended now. So uh, let's talk about first Arsenal 3. Let's do my guests first. So how we're missing me. Usman, thanks for joining me. Tanner, the bearded gooner, and Stan the man, thanks for joining again. We'll have a couple of others coming in. And Stan, 3-2, Arsenal, Watford.
It's uh, it's a cliche, isn't it? You know that cliche when you say it was a game of two halves. And
Definitely.
I've said that so many times about a lot of our games this season that there's a real disconnect sometimes between the halves of football that we play. Because again, similar to the Leicester game, if the game had finished at half time, it would have looked like a good day at the office. But in the second half, again, for some whatever reason, I don't know if it's mental fatigue, everything just starts to fall apart. And I'm jumping well ahead here, but I mean, I'm sure that I can't be the only one that, especially in the last maybe 20 minutes in that game, you're sitting there on the knife edge thinking, you're joking. Not again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Are we going to be able to even maybe score or draw, let alone blowing all 3 points? But at the end of the day, when you look back at the history books, it's going to say Arsenal won 3-2. Even though it was a very, very scruffy display in the second half. Disjointed.
Yeah, Tanner, we race out to a 3-0 lead in quick fashion. Aubameyang getting that penalty, and we'll talk about Mike Dean. He looked really at pains to give that penalty to us, and I gotta say, if you put the two pictionary things beside each other, Mike Dean's face, his expression for giving Watford's penalty would be slightly different to the one that he gave for us. But your thoughts on the 3-2 victory? We did win the game.
Yeah, I'm going to echo Dan's comments about it. It was very disjointed. We looked lively going forward in attack, which I was actually kind of surprised about. But I really thought defensively we struggled, not just in the second half, but in the first half as well. Watford did create a few chances, and with a little bit more quality in that side, they could have capitalized on them, and this could have been a very different result. So, obviously, happy to get the win, but boy, it really feels like we're backing into this final next weekend, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So happy to walk away with 3 points, climb the table a little bit, get into 8th place, which is not acceptable. But it was the best we could hope for, and we move to next weekend, and hopefully a week off will re-energize the squad, and we'll come out with a better effort.
And Tanner, we're left another league season finished, and we're left ruining 2 or 3 points that we could have gained. The scenarios I'd laid out, as in Wolves getting the 59 points, Tottenham getting the 59 points, and I thought we would get 59 points and hopefully have a chance to boost our goal difference. But we slipped up against Villa earlier in the week, and we weren't ever going to score the amount of goals or goal difference that we needed here.
Yeah, I kind of thought about it, and if we could have beaten Villa 2 or 3-0, which I really going into the match I thought we could have done, and then hope that I kind of had it in my head that Wolves were going to do exactly what they did today. I thought they would lose by 2 to Chelsea, and they did. Yeah. And that right there puts us, goal difference would have put us right there. But coulda, shoulda, woulda, ifs and buts and all that. So
yeah. Usman, your take on the 3-2-1. Aubameyang races out to a goal scoring penalty and a overhead kick and Tierney's goal. We're in a 3-0 lead, and like Gunnar Glenn said, we should have probably lost that game with Welbeck and Deeney having great chances there.
It wasn't surprised, to be honest. I just wasn't surprised. I say this because it is expected of us. Some games we perform great, some games we won't do well, and in some games we get both of them. So Yeah, honestly, we could have lost that match, but at the end of the day, it wasn't really going to change anything if we're being fully honest with ourselves. We're in eighth place. We couldn't go lower than 10th, and we can't go higher than 8th. So
Yeah,
we're just in the same territory that belongs to Everton. So no surprise about it.
exactly. Exactly. Rohan, Tony's in the house as well. Thanks for joining us, boys. Rohan, echoes of the 2-2 draw against Watford earlier in the season, where, Xhaka did say that we were scared at halftime. And
We can't
your
lead
thoughts?
into a lead against a team that actually got relegated, right? That's just sums up our season. What was different in this game was we actually scored. We scored multiple goals. We scored three, and it was great. It looked like we were cruising. Abbas on his way to get his golden boot. Everything is good and well, and then Watford just came back and they rallied back real hard, and they could have won it. In the second half, it almost seemed like Arsenal's game plan was somehow to get the ball to Aubameyang for him to score, because there was especially one point in which Eddie and Kedia looked in a better position to score, but he still tried to square it for Aubameyang. That was. I mean, it's okay. An individual honor would have been great, and it's great that we tried as a team to get him something. But all in all, not a convincing performance, and we've got to do much better than this on Saturday when we have everything to play for.
Yeah, and we'll dip into the FA Cup a little bit. But Tony, like Rohan said, it almost seemed like all of Oba's teammates were trying to line the ball up for him to score, possibly at the detriment of us getting the result if we'd been taken back to 3-3 or even lost the game, Tony.
I think we should have lost the game, but I think we were definitely trying to get him the golden boot instead of winning the game. And the only individual record we got was David Luiz with his 5th penalty giveaway of the year, breaking the Premier League record for that. So I guess we can be happy with that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think VAR hurt us a little bit, Tanner, because Aubameyang was chasing that individual honor of getting the golden boot, and with that 3-game ban that he got in the Crystal Palace game, he was up against it to beat Vardy today.
Yeah. You have to get the game under control first before you start pushing for individual honors, and losing this game would have been just absolutely disastrous. And I actually agree with Tony. By rights, we probably should have lost today.
Yep.
At the very least, probably should have drawn. Watford, little unlucky to not finish a couple of those chances. Emi Martinez coming up massive again with that incredible save on Danny Welbeck. But you have to control the game before you start pushing for the individual honors. I get it. It would have been a nice touch to, get Aubameyang, not only a hat trick on the final day of the season, but also, he ties Vardy for the golden boot at that point, and it's a second in a row. But you got to put the game. The game has to be put to bed in terms of control, not necessarily scoreline, but you've got to dominate the game before you start going for those things, in my opinion.
Yeah, Stan, you got to earn the right to win the game, and we haven't done that too many times this season as well. We're going to look back a little bit through the Premier League season as well, its ups and downs, and we haven't controlled very many games where we could earn the right to go on and win it in style.
Well, I've seen games where we've controlled it in the first half, and you see a lot of nice football sometimes in the first half, but it's the way that the team just seems to capitulate all of the time in the second half. And I don't understand why that is, And if it's to do with fitness, everybody else, all the other teams, they're all having to play the same amount of games. They've all been part of a pandemic as well. But it seems for some reason that in the second half we just seem to totally lose the game plan a little bit.
Yeah. Usman, in these 10 games on the restart, we've got 16 points out of 30, and that's not going to be enough going into next season. we have to find a way to be more consistent. 5 wins, 1 draw, and 4 losses in those 10 games.
Of course, we need to be consistent enough because that's one of our problems throughout the years. Once we win a couple of games, but we cannot find a way to keep on track of it, and that's why we don't finish in the position that we're looking to finish on. We could win the odd game here and there, but the main games that we're supposed to finish off, we don't do that.
Yeah.
That's where we are hurtful, and we just need to find the consistency like the rest of the other teams on the table do every season to even have a chance of competing.
Rowan, we just need to, and Arteta's talked about this, is being a little bit more consistent against the bottom 15 teams. We're doing quite well against the top 4 or 5, relatively speaking. We're picking up results here and there lately. But to be more consistent, as Tanner has said, against the Brightons of this world, Watfords of this world, and Aston Villas, of course. Aston Villa can thank us probably for keeping them in the Premier League at this point in time.
Well, I mean, they beat us fair and square. It's not like we didn't try, but we were just not good enough, right? Like, so I think the people they have to thank is the guy who forgot to turn on the goal line system, right? That allowed them to stay up because of the Sheffield United, the goal that wasn't given. But leaving Aston Villa aside, there's just been so many points in the season where we've just come out short, right? And there is no point, like I've said before, you get 3 points for the win. You beat Manchester City or you beat Norwich. You're going to get 3 points. You won't get anything more than that. Of course, there are duels that happen and you can go either 6 points ahead or you can tie on points, those 6 pointers that you have. But before you get into those positions, you have to win the games that you should be winning on paper. And so many times we've gone ahead and drawn games. We've gone ahead and lost games. Before the restart, I had said that we need at least 25 out of 30 points to qualify for the Champions League. And in fact, that also wouldn't have been enough because effectively we've got 16 points, you said, and we finished 10 points behind,
10 points. United and Chelsea.
So, maybe it was a task too much to ask for from our players, but it's been so unconvincing. After the Manchester City and the Liverpool performance, the last 2 performances, one was a loss, and today's win doesn't really feel like a win because we were under the cosh for the second half against a team that was going down. That's just not good enough.
Yeah, Stan, do you think there was a little part of the team felt like we got a cup final next week and we don't want to get injured? That kind of thing.
I don't know what it is. I mean, like I agree with sort of like what Rohan was alluding to. It's almost as like the team. It's almost like our team has a mentality is that every week when they look at the schedule to see who they're playing, it's like, ooh, Man United, ooh, Chelsea, ooh, Liverpool, Brighton, whatever. It's like they can't. It's like they can't be bothered to play those games. Those games are the boring ones. Like if you're playing a season for some games, you might sim through the game instead of playing it. You just sim it. It's like what they're doing. It's like some games they think they can just sim through the game and get to the good ones. It doesn't work like that because even though we've won, it's not a convincing performance to walk into a cup final with. Whereas had the season ended at the end of the Man City game, that was our last game of the season, and our next game was the cup final. It'd be a totally different story, right? There'd be a big buzz around the place. Now, in the space of a week, we've gone from favourites back to underdogs.
Yeah.
In the space of a few days, we've literally. I'm not really a betting man, but I'd love to see how the odds have changed for Arsenal over the last week. I bet they've been up and down. Like, well, I'm not going to say because my mum watches this, but it's underwear. It's underwear that's worn by ladies of the night. I've just alluded that way. So it's just, I don't understand how the team just doesn't get up for it for certain games. That's what it feels like.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Stephen. Yeah, you just missed us talking about Arsenal being the same old Arsenal, possibly drawing or losing this game right at the end. And Everton FC is the best. Thanks for joining us. I want to know from the Everton fan if you feel like you should have done better this season, or if you feel like you can do better next season. So let me know about Everton. Tony, in a situation where we wanted to get a little element of revenge against Troy Deeney and sort of show him that we had the cojones, well, I think it's patently obvious we don't have the cojones yet.
Nope, not yet. We started off bright in the first half and didn't do anything in the second half. I was wondering what the hell Zaka told Uba at halftime, be very afraid. I don't know. We just didn't do anything in the second half.
In a situation where you're 3-0 up and you have your opponent where you need to, Tanner, and you don't finish off the job. That's disgraceful.
Yeah, it's been a problem with this club now for how long, really? We've been dealing with this now for 3 years, give or take. Yeah, I mean, what did Arteta say about killing them? Can't remember which game that was after.
Yeah,
but you get them down.
I think the Brighton game.
Yeah, you get them down. If you're drowning one of these teams, you don't take your foot off the top of their head to let them come up for air. You keep your foot on them and you keep them down until they're done. Period. Yeah. So we need that killer instinct in this club, to finish games off. And I don't even mean go out and make it 4-0 and put the game out of reach. No, play to the final whistle. You don't necessarily need to go and score 6, 7, 10 goals, whatever it might be, but you need to finish games strong. You need to dominate. And we just don't seem to do that. We take our foot off the gas far, far, far too many times.
And the Everton FC fan said we're awful. If I was at the Bournemouth game today, I'd go on the pitch and throw the players or myself. We need to sell half the squad. We're disgraceful. We need players who care, and we simply don't. And it's quite a similar situation to what we have, Rohan. You could just change Everton FC to is the best to Arsenal FC is the best on that avatar, right? And it would still sound the same.
And that'd be just diluted. So, that's what it would be, right? Like nobody. That's a joke, right? Like we are not the best. Arsenal is not the best. What we can be the best, but we're not. Mikel Arteta's record. He's now managed 20 Premier League games. He's won 9. He's drawn 6 and he's lost 5. So he's picked up 33 points till now. He has to build on that. He's got 33 and that he's got to build on that. Just look at something like, how we played in the second half against Leicester, which is a team like I've been telling you, they haven't been performing the best. Out of the last 21 games, they just won 6 of them. In 21 games, they've won 6, which is less than what Arsenal have won in 20. And so, there's been opportunities for us to capitalize this season, but what we've done is we haven't capitalized. Mikel Arteta has a big job in the summer. Chelsea already done their business. Manchester United look a better squad. We need to do something about it. This, I have said before, is our biggest transfer window in our, history. Yeah. And if we don't capitalize now, this 8th that we see on the table might become a usual occurrence.
Yeah, definitely work needs to be done in the off season, which is going to be compressed into, I believe, 6 weeks. Let's get into the analysis of the game. It won't take too long. We all know what happened, but Usman in the first minute, David Luiz, he sprays a really, really nice long ball to Aubameyang, and the cross goes into the box. Tobias gets on the end of it, but Lacazette has been bundled over by Dawson. And strangely enough, our old friend Mike Dean like I said, he was at pains to, oh shit, I have to award a penalty here to Arsenal. It was like the worst thing in the world. Like he just taken his medicine.
Yeah. As soon as I've seen that incident with him giving the penalty. You know, he's a Tottenham fan. So he always
Well,
wants.
I didn't know that, but I can tell by the expression on his face every time he has to give Arsenal something.
We give the penalty, like, oh damn, I have to give this penalty. But I support Arsenal. But I have to be honest. If I'm not,
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm not surprised. Obviously, it had to be a penalty. I mean, you're right and say that. How was that not a penalty? I mean, there are so many incidents that have been against us a lot this season, last season, only for a number of years because we're not the favorite ones. No one likes our team.
Yeah.
So that's why we don't get the chances. But even if we do something wrong, a little bit wrong, oh yeah, all to them, free kick them, penalty to
Yellow
them.
card, red card.
Yeah, it's just all that. Oh.
Stan, did it feel like for a moment that that incident was going to get overlooked and we weren't going to get that penalty?
I thought it was quite refreshing actually, because it's usually, the other way around. It's usually VAR is stopping the game to tell the referee to have a look at something, that's going to be hurtful towards Arsenal. Usually, right? So to see it actually work in our favour, I didn't care whether it was a penalty or not. I was just like, great, we actually got a VAR decision in our favour that's helped us. And yeah, Mike Dean, his face said it all afterwards. And I even said to you in the group, didn't I? I said to you, didn't I? He's going to try and even it up at some point. Mm-hmm. Another penalty will get given, and he did. Whether it's a penalty or not, I just knew that at some point, we would get a penalty against us somehow, some way. Do you know what I mean? And it just happens that Mike Dean's the referee again. But yeah, I was glad to see that VAR actually done something in our favour. It's usually the other way around.
So we will get into that other penalty, but Rohan, want to talk about Aubameyang's goals. He put away the penalty really, really nicely, and then the Tierney shot and the second goal for Aubameyang.
Aubameyang was on fire today, right? But I think he'll be kicking himself for giving away penalties earlier in the season, right? Like he could have now got the golden boot, and that's how it play out, right? So, but great performance by him today. He was on fire. The first goal, he took the penalty quite calmly. That was good, standard stuff by him. The second goal was impressive because the move was exactly the same as how we scored against Manchester City, right? Pepe coming in and then supplying the ball, but this time it was a little behind Aubameyang, so he played it across, and Tierney with a composed finish there. So I like that play. And then the third goal that Aubameyang scored, I had a feeling if Kabasele had just put his head in, he would have been marked for high boot, That would have. I was half expecting it to be cancelled because of a high boot, but it didn't because nobody was near enough to his foot.
His push.
So yeah, but great goal there, and I was really rooting for him. After going 3-0 up in the first half, it was odds on that he would score one more, and we really tried, but we tried so desperately that they knew that this is what we were trying, right? So that cost him at the end, but. Beautiful goals there. Defensively so poor though, and everybody's going to blame David Luiz for that penalty.
No, I don't.
It's Rob Holding's fault. Right? Like when he was trying to play it out, he gave the ball cheaply and
still a penalty.
Was caught behind. So I mean, I don't think he had any other option. The only
for sure
that's sent off.
I think we're going to talk about Rob Holding a little bit later. He had a rocky game, and I thought he was going to settle into it. But then by the end of the first half, he was actually at fault for giving the ball away when we were trying to play out from the back. First goal for Aubameyang, the penalty, well taken. The second goal, first of all, I'm going to say Darren Boy, Gaming World, thanks for joining us. The penalty was obvious, to be honest, and I felt it didn't need a VAR decision. Took almost like 4 or 5 minutes of the game to decide that. But, you're going to tell me I'm full of shit, but I was saying to myself when we were passing the ball out from the back and the ball went into midfield for Tierney's goal, I said, goal incoming. I absolutely did say that to myself because I'd seen this happen before a couple of times with Arsenal in recent weeks, and we're starting to get some goals this way by committing forwards in our penalty box. It's a risky proposition, and Rob Holding was shaky on occasion, which makes me worry for the FA Cup final. But and then of course Aubameyang scoring a great goal off of that throw in. I know Tony, you wanted to say something about that throw in from Tierney.
Yeah, I thought it was a brilliant play. Seeing him open like that, really liked the throw.
And
Great finish.
at that time, it almost seemed too easy. At that point, we're 3-0 up. I thought we were going to go in 3-0 tenor at halftime. But as we mentioned, let's get to the penalty for Watford. Rob Holding had a shaky game up until then. A couple of loose passes, one crossfield pass that went out for a throw in. We didn't look right playing out from the back, but he lost the ball in the right back area, and our defense was not set. And David Luiz had to do what David Luiz does best, I guess.
I'm not going to. I think David Luiz had to do what he had to do, and I think it was just it was an unfortunate. He missed. I don't think it was a penalty. I'm not going to sit here and say that it was. I don't think it was a harsh penalty. I think it was a penalty, but I think David Luiz did what he needed to do, and unfortunately, it just didn't work out for us in the end. But Rob Holding had a. In fact, I said it in our Twitter chat during the game. Rob Holding I hate to say it, he had a nightmare today. He really did. This was not his best effort. I mean, he's going to play on Saturday against Chelsea in the final. And now it's almost like, do we have to play the back three again to now protect not only David Luiz, but also protect Rob Holding?
Holding, yeah. I think that's a good shout, actually.
So,
three at the back, I think, is a good shout, Tanner.
Yeah, we'll get into that later. But yeah, Rob Holding, and I'm a Rob Holding guy. I really am.
Me too.
During the 22 game unbeaten streak last year, he was our best defender till he got hurt. And it's not that he's not performing well. It just seems to be his decision making. And I have said this ad nauseum on your show, on my show, on other shows. One of the biggest flaws in this team has been decision making. It's not even ability or talent. It's decision making from players who are talented. They're just not situationally aware of what to do. And that's the biggest thing right now with Rob Holding. It just seems like he's making poor decisions, and he's making more of them. The more games he plays, the longer he plays, he seems to be making more.
Mm-hmm. Gunnar Glenn, thanks for joining us, Gunnar Glenn. This is a huge job for Arteta if you didn't know it already. It's quite evident today. Tierney is the most impressive player, if I'm honest, and so dedicated. We could do with another 6 Kieran Tierney's, at least another 6. Arteta has made his job harder by re-signing Luiz, and that's yes. I don't think there's anyone here that could argue that point. The
thing is, he might as well play him defensive midfielder, since sometimes he just plays better there than he actually. And I mean, look at his free kicks and passing, and you want to tell me he's a central defender? Please, just play him as a defensive mid. We have less problems.
Yeah, and he's going to be here next season, so we might even get that opportunity to see him in that position, Usman. You sampled any new signings that Arsenal signed should be given a written test on problem solving and decision making. Well, how difficult do you make the test then? What?
Final year of university. That's all.
Do we want Jordan Pickford? We can have him for free with a packet of dairy milk chocolate and a bag of crisps too, right?
He is England's first choice goalkeeper, and Everton FC. I am utterly stunned at how poor he has been for you guys.
Let's linger on this question from Darren Boy. Holding, does he have a career with Arsenal? I mean, I'm with Tanner. I always thought that he did, but I just don't think he believes that Arteta believes in him. He's lost his confidence, like the Assemble has said here.
Yeah, he may have lost a little bit of confidence, but I think he can get it back. And I think perhaps with a full, well, it's not going to. I keep thinking we're going to get like a full off season here to train and sort of perfect what Arteta wants to do. But there's a spot for him here next season. So his career is going to continue here. Yeah, I think he does have a career at Arsenal. He's never. I don't think he's ever going to be a first choice. But right now we're a team. We're a team full of squad players, with the exception of Aubameyang and either goal and whichever goalkeeper's in better form.
Journeyman.
Yeah, is there anyone else that honestly you look at and you say, no, that's a clear cut starter. That's a clear first name on the team sheet before every match. It's Aubameyang and it's either Leno or Martinez and Kieran Tierney, and that's it. That's the list.
I want to say shout out to Andrew for joining us as well. Thanks for joining in, Andrew. Really, 8 people in chat. So sling out the questions to the panel here. We've got 5 distinguished guests here and half a brain in me. So I should be able to help you. I can't solve Arsenal's defensive problems though. Rohan, so 3-1 at halftime. We go in. What's your thoughts at halftime?
I think that at halftime that Watford are going to have a go and we'll get chances on the counter, and Auba is going to get his hat trick and he's going to get the golden boot, and then he's going to announce that he signed a new deal and all of these.
Right. So you had unicorns and rainbows. You were thinking, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. But the second half was seriously, it was just it was all the bad things that we've done this season, right? And I just want to say, another statistic is that Ancelotti and Arteta, if you remember, they took over at the same time, right? Because both of them, Arsenal played Everton when both of the managers sat on the in the stands and watched them. So Ancelotti's won 8, drawn 6, lost 6. Arteta's won 9, drawn 6, lost 5. So the difference between the two has just been one game, which Everton has lost and we have won. So that's basically been the difference between the two.
Oh, really? That's the difference in the record. I wasn't aware of that, but yeah, good point. Tanner, you wanted to get in?
I was just going to say it's fairy dust, not rainbows.
And the unicorn shits the fairy dust, right?
Exactly.
Rohan ate and shit a bowl of Lucky Charms.
So Rohan called it almost perfectly, except for Watford controlled the second half, had the majority of the chances. And Aubameyang, we tried to set Aubameyang up a couple of times without getting him in,
Yeah, didn't happen. And I just want to touch on the Rob Holding question that you asked. I like Rob Holding. I think he has character. When he plays well, he plays with his heart. But he's just been so inconsistent since he's come back. He's been off the pace. Against Southampton, he was the best player on the pitch, and then he didn't get a run in until the semi-final. And then he played the semi-final and he was good. But then since then, he's been sort of patchy. Today's goal also that David Luiz has now this unwelcome record is because Rob Holding gave the ball away. So I personally want him to succeed at Arsenal, but I don't know right now if he is the right guy to take us forward. So and with Mustafi's injury and his injury continuing into next season or the start of next season, it doesn't seem like we're going to sell him. But what we must do is we must get another centre back, in, and this might be a good opportunity for us to dive into the transfer market and say that we need another centre back. Socrates seems like he's done. He's not part of any match day squads anymore. So he seems like he's going. So we need to fill that gap, right?
Yeah. Andrew said it's nice to see a toffee in the chat. That's true. And if the Everton fan can stick around, we're going to dip around the league at the end of this Watford section. But Stan, Darren Boy said, I love the whole squad. I don't think there's a player that I don't like. We like all of the players, right? It's just that some of them, hold on. Some of them don't necessarily need to play in the first team or be in the squad. I mean, I like the players personally, but some of them are not good enough for this team.
I just want to go as well and circle back what you guys were just talking about. I mean, I am a big fan of Sir Robert of Holding, but he didn't have a very good he didn't have a good day at the office today. And what Tanner was saying is very much rings true, that we've got a lot of players, and especially in our defensive part of the team, which are squad players. Now, if you look at our defence, we've got players that can barely work a free centre back system. The players that we've got definitely can't work a 4 at the back with 2 centre halves. And if you look at someone like Robert Holding, right, he's constantly in and out of the team. And if you look at defence, one of the key things is that you need to build up partnerships in defence. You have to build up partnerships. 1 minute he's playing with Mustafi, the next thing he's playing with David. He's playing in a 3, then he's playing on a 4, then he's playing with David Luiz, then he's back to Mustafi. And it's like that for most of our defenders. You know, the formation has been changing. They're just getting used to it. You know, we've been playing a 3 at the back now, which I thought we would just see that out now to the end of the season. And then we can start to tinker in pre-season and maybe some new faces come in. But I was very surprised to see him go to a 4 today. So I'm not surprised that Holding has good games and then he has stinkers, because there's no rhythm. And I would to go on to the question that you brought up of was it Gamer Boy about the squad, loving most of the squad,
liking the squad players.
I've done my post-match reaction earlier for Cannon Fodder, and I was kind of looking back at the whole squad, at the whole season, and I was saying, like, you know, if you're looking at the squad, who's really painted themselves in glory? And the names that I came up with was the 2 goalkeepers, Emi Martinez and Bernd Leno, Aubameyang, the Martinelli before he got injured, Saka, and Tierney. Other than that, other players that I haven't named, some of them may have had moments. Some of them may have had parts in the season where they put 2 good games together, but they haven't really done anything to cover themselves in glory. And it's probably the first time in a long time where, other than, how many names did I name? 5?
Yeah, 2 goalkeepers, the striker, and about 2 other players, Tierney and Saka.
5. The rest of them are actually all for sale, as far as I can see. If a bid come in for any of the players that I haven't mentioned, if a reasonable bid came in, I think Arsenal would seriously consider.
Yep. Exactly. I think we have 5, maybe 4 or 5 untouchables, Stan. Tanner, to Andrew's point there, we would have lost under Emery, no doubt. Was it a great performance? No, but we won. And, you know, winning is a habit, and it's definitely something we needed to have. We needed to have this game going into the cup final. And more importantly, without injuries. I was very, very worried about Tierney at the end.
I said it before the Sheffield United match. That Southampton game was massive for confidence. We needed to win that game going into Sheffield United. If we lose today, it's 2 losses now in a row, and we're going in to play a cup final, and not only a cup final, but against a team that we played a cup final against last season and got run out of the park. So today, and getting the win, hopefully, despite the performance, hopefully the 3 points, the win, 3 goals gives us confidence going into next weekend, which I think we desperately need. But there's definitely the inconsistency still exists, you know, within this team. And we just can't seem to string together good performances for long stretches. And
Yeah.
I mean, I could go on about this for days, but 3 points. I mean, the game really didn't mean much for us except for, maybe a little bit of money, finishing in a higher spot than, going from 10th to 8th. But it was big for confidence. I hope it was big for our confidence. So.
Just checking, Usman, are you still there? I'll come to you then if you are. But Rohan, similarities to 2017 for me is uncanny. If you imagine the first goal Aubameyang scored against City, a long sweeping cross from the right from Pepe, and Aubameyang finishes on the back post. Nacho Monreal did the same thing, similar kind of goal in the semi-final. We're going into this final against the same opponent with the same amount of odds against us, because Chelsea were going for that double in 2017, and we are pretty much going to be underdogs in the final too.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, if you try to compare both of them, then probably we are maybe a little bit of a better position right now because Chelsea aren't champions, right? That time Chelsea were champions, they had the highest win record, and all of that. But give a chance then, right? And here I feel that there are a few danger men that Chelsea have, right? Even today, Chelsea scored 2 in the extra time of the first half, right? Giroud scored 1, and then Pulisic, Mason Mount scored a free kick before that. So, that's what it is. They have a few danger men, and we have to sort of be aware of them. I think Giroud has scored 6 in the past 6 starts or something like that. I was in fact watching along, not live, but with my friend Charles, and I was just telling him that, dude, we've given you Giroud, who scored goals for you. Yeah. You've given us David Luiz, who cost us penalties, going in. So that's the reality of things. But what we have to do is, we know that he's not going to run in behind, right? We have to cancel his aerial threat, and if we can do that, then we pretty much got him locked in. And then Pulisic is another guy in form, and we have to somehow try to control him. But I think that it can be much closer, and Chelsea's defense especially is not the best. So if we play in a positive manner, we can definitely put them under pressure.
Yeah, Usman, everything points to a high-scoring game for me in the final. Chelsea, who are not good at the back, Arsenal are not good at the back, but Giroud is like a man possessed. If you saw that first goal, you'd think the defender is going to clear that ball easily, but he eats up the ground, and he's possessed right now. Giroud is, like Rohan said, 6 goals in his last 6 starts. So, Usman, how do you see the final going?
If Giroud comes back and breaks our hearts again, I think I'm going to completely lose it, because I said last week I said Baku, but I don't know if it's going to be in Baku Part 2 again, because
Baku Part 2.
Yeah, but I know this time it's 2 managers who've just started their managerial careers. I know Lampard got to the semi-final of the championship promotion stages.
Yeah,
but he got knocked out in the semi-finals. Arteta is pretty much a novice, so honestly, from this game, I don't know, because Chelsea's team, most of them are full of there are youngsters here and there. Also, there's some players that haven't been at a final before. Arsenal, on the other hand, there are players that have been in the finals, but I think it just comes down to who wants it the most. That's all there is. We're equal in some ways, but Chelsea perform better than us. So whoever's the better team on the day is the team that will win the FA Cup.
Yeah, exactly. Whoever wants it on the day. And Stan's getting the kick out of that comment from the assembled. Problem is you can't sell an injured player, but Arsenal sure pick up quite a few injured players, right, Stan?
Yeah, exactly. That's just bang on. I mean, you know, we do it in reverse, don't we? But I mean, Oliver Giroud, man. I mean, no one sneaks onto a cup-winning team quite like Oliver Giroud. He does it all the time, man.
I'm
And
really hoping David Luiz is our guy. That's the lucky mascot. You know what I mean?
But it's funny as well. Like,
Maybe it's not Giroud. Maybe it's David Luiz then.
I mean, we moved on to Oliver Giroud because, you know, we felt that he wasn't good enough to take us to the next level. Now look at him. It's crazy. I mean, I might do a poll later, actually. Would you still have Giroud? You know what I mean? I mean, it's an interesting poll. If you could only have one in your team, Lacazette or Giroud, who would you have?
Oh,
Because we, you know, Lacazette was supposed to come in and take us further on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's never, as I've said it a few times on this pod, he's never met the numbers that Giroud put in. We should have kept Olivier Giroud as part of our squad. You know?
Yeah, he was a at
the time when we moved him on, I thought, okay, I understand our reasons of doing it. You know, maybe we're looking to bring someone else in, and I was very pleased when Lacazette came in. But looking back at it now in the cold light of day and looking at the numbers, it's not really worked out in the way that we thought it would, to be honest. And Olivier Giroud, he broke our hearts in Baku, didn't he? And could you imagine if he jinxes it, if he does it again? I mean, when Frank Lampard first went to Chelsea, it was almost like he kind of looked at Giroud with a bit of disdain. He was like, that guy from Arsenal's here. And he was like milking it with Tammy Abrahams, wasn't he? And he started to misfire. And it got to a stage where he had to look around and he had to give Olivier Giroud a game. And you could almost see in those first few games, he had to leave him in. But it was almost like, oh, do you know what I mean? The more he keeps scoring, the more I'm going to have to leave him in. I think he's resigned to it now, and I think he's used to it. But there was definitely, for me, a feeling of some kind of disdain towards Oliver Giroud. And fair play to Giroud, he kept his head down. He didn't piss and moan about it. And when he got his chance, now look at him. I sneaked into another cup final.
Players can convince coaches. Rohan, Giroud was part of the whole trio of mechanisms to get Aubameyang to the club. So, you know, Giroud had to go to Chelsea, and who was that player had to go to Germany?
Batshuayi.
Batshuayi. Thanks.
That's right.
Yeah. So that was the whole mechanism. We couldn't keep Giroud. I think we actually wanted, Wenger at the time wanted to probably keep Giroud if he could have gotten Aubameyang as well at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so, you know, if I had the chance again that you can sign, you know, Aubameyang, but you only have to move on. You can only do that if you move on Giroud, then I would do that. But if the question is, who would you pick between Lacazette and Giroud? I think I'd pick Giroud because he has a specific set of skills that he brings to the team that nobody else has, you know, and, you know,
a particular set of skills.
He has a particular set of skills. You know, how many times has he, like, you know, that's what we don't have, right? If we are going into the 85th minute, 1-0 down, you know, you can punt it into the box and he's good at it. You know, he's going to, you know, score there or set up something else. For a big guy, he's got a great touch, you know, for what we bought him, for what we bought him for.
I'm just hung
well.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just laughing on some kind of Frankenstein between Liam Neeson and Olivier Giroud.
Yeah, I thought we found Liam Neeson there for a minute.
He really does. You know, I felt when he was at Arsenal, he was the best. He's not good enough to lead a title charge, but he's definitely the best plan B in the Premier League, and I still do feel that. You know, of course, he's sort of, you know, put a bad taste in the mouth because of what he said after Baku, you know, or what he did, you know, but that's maybe he also feels hard done by because Lacazette came in and as soon as he came in, Giroud was sort of the second choice, you know, and not that Lacazette was particularly performing better than him. And then the love that Lacazette gets from all the Arsenal fans and has got over the years is not something like Giroud was always treated with some sort of disrespect, right? Just because he wasn't fast, just because he wasn't, you know, he wasn't that classic definition of what a Thierry Henry sort of a finisher would be, but he had something different about himself, and
Just because he was good looking.
he was good looking as well. You know,
Well,
hated that.
what's crazy?
But still,
to
if
me-
he was good looking, remember back in 2015 when they gave an award for the sexiest player of the year. Instead of giving it to Olivier Giroud, they gave it to Alexis Sanchez. So what did that mean?
because his legs were sexy. It was sexy legs, nothing else. He had the footwork. Yeah, I think it's crazy that we have this obsession with individual players, and we should love the team and not the individual players to that extent that we have fanboys. We have the term now, fanboys. Stan?
Can I just also say, I was just like talking about players on the Chelsea team. I'll tell you the other player that has really impressed me, and that's Christian Pulisic. And you know, I don't like to compare too much, but I do sometimes. You know, when I see what Pulisic is doing, and I see it, I kind of think to myself sometimes, why isn't Pepe doing that? You know, I know that you shouldn't always compare people to people and that, but you know, it's very easy when you have players that have a similar role in the team or what have you. And I really, you know, I do look at Christian Pulisic and think to myself, man, I wish Pepe was doing that kind of shit on a regular basis, especially for the money that we've been, you know, we've gone out there and invested in him. And the funniest tweet I saw today was from Danny the GFP, and it just said that Danny Welbeck kid looks a bit sharp, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And he did. I mean, I was following up with you. We should send our scouts to go and take a look at him. But then I remembered we fired all of our scouts, so we can't do that.
Hey, so Tony, I'm lingering on this. Ozil can go and make love to himself from Andrew here. I want to talk briefly about Ozil and Guendouzi. You see a path back into the squad for any one of those two.
And Arteta seems done with both of them. I'd still give Guendouzi a chance, but it doesn't look like he's going to. I'd pay off Ozil this summer, get him out of the club.
Would you be willing to use Guendouzi to get a player in?
No, I wouldn't.
You would not.
I think he's got too much upside to get rid of him. I don't think an apology means shit if you're forced to say it. That isn't an apology.
so then sell it.
Yeah, so then sell him. No
Nope.
problem. Tony, you would make not the best coach in the world. I'm sorry.
So on a couple of points that we
He'd make a brilliant owner, though.
He'd be a bloody brilliant owner, Stan. Go ahead, Rob.
So a couple of things, you know, I think I had said this in a previous pod that, you know, the difference between Pulisic and Pepe is that Pulisic wants to be the protagonist of the team, right? He gets hold of the ball, he runs at players, he's trying to take him on. He's not a one-trick pony, you know, he sets up goals, scores goals. Pepe, for some reason, seems too shy for that, right? Today also his game was indifferent. You know, he wasn't great. He didn't come on the ball as much. In fact, Reece Nelson was better when he came in. I felt like Reece Nelson played better when he came on than Pepe. Even though Pepe sort of got the pre-assist for the second goal, but Reece Nelson, I felt had a better game than Pepe. You know, that's on Pepe.
I think I said before, Ron, I'm starting to believe that Pepe is our luxury player. You know, the same way Ozil was our luxury player and we have to carry him a little bit. There's just a little bit more end product with Pepe.
I think he will come good, but he needs a very solid midfield who can feed him the ball, who does their work efficiently, who knows how to play to his strengths, and that's when he may play good. You know, that's one. On the Ozil and Guendouzi issue, I don't really see a way back for either of them. But if there is a miraculous turnaround for Guendouzi, it's okay. I'd rather use him to get another player. But if there is a turnaround, I'm okay with that. But the writing's on the wall for Ozil, right? He's not playing for Arsenal again. And, you know, so what we have to do is we have to pay him out and we have to get him out of the club this summer. And if we hear that, oh, we can't sign players or we can't extend Aubameyang because they want Ozil contracts and Ozil is on our books and he's costing us so much, then there's nobody else left to blame than the board, because you have the opportunity to pay him, like you paid off Mkhitaryan, right? You paid off Mickey. You pay him off, and he'll be on his way. He has no interest in playing. Arteta doesn't want to play him. There is no point in just having an extra warm body that you're never going to use.
Tanner, your thoughts on Ozil and Guendouzi? I thought that Arteta was articulating that they were, and he actually said they were available again. But isn't it telling that neither one of them even got on the subs bench, and you have a youth player in Smith coming in?
So I'm going to disagree with Rowan from this standpoint. If you're not good, they're not going to pay off Ozil.
No.
Because it's bad business. And I'll tell you why it's bad business. Because in this business, he's a warm body. And whether we think he's capable of playing or not, he's more capable of playing than we are. And I'm not going to turn into an Ozil fanboy or anything else. But if we beat Chelsea, we're now in Europe. We have Europa League football. We have Premier League football. We have the FA Cup to look forward to. I don't know what's going on with the League Cup. If we play that, we're back into 4 competitions. If we have a rash of injuries, and let's face it, we've been riddled with injuries and serious injuries in the past 2 years. If we sell him, if we pay him off and tell him to leave, we've paid him for absolutely nothing. At the very least, he's a warm body that you keep in case of emergency. That's what he's going to be. It's just not. Now, if he's a cancer in the locker room, that's a different story. If he's creating problems. But from everything that I can tell, he's being a good soldier in training. He's not now his agent might be out there, he's going to play out his contract. He's settled in London, this and that. And that's fine. But if he's not causing problems on the training pitch, and he's not overly vocal about not getting in the team, because look, he could be out there in the media saying, I want to play, stirring up a shitstorm. But you put it on social media that I'm ready or whatever. That's fine. All that says is, okay, you're ready to go. And if you get picked, you get picked. But he's not making a stink when he doesn't get picked.
I don't think it's fine, Tanner, to say that on social media, because you are putting it up to the coach saying you're ready, you're available. You're making it known to the fan base that there may be an issue there.
Right. But it doesn't seem – we haven't heard reports. Look, we heard after the Manchester City game, we heard a rumor that David Luiz was basically forming a clique in the locker room, and he was starting to become a divisive character, right? We've never heard that about Ozil. We've never heard that he's dividing the locker room, have we? I've never heard that. I've never once heard that Ozil is a divisive character in the locker room. So while I want to see him gone, understand this, I want to see him gone. I would love to sell him. If you got 15 million pounds for him, sell him. That's great. If you got 5 million pounds for him, sell him because you get his wages off the books. But put yourselves in the position of an owner. Are you going to hand a guy his walking papers knowing that you may need him somewhere down the road and say, I'm going to pay you to go away, but I might need you. And I'm telling you, when that situation arises, because it will, I promise you, every Arsenal fan is going to be like, and we paid him to walk away. We're paying Mesut Ozil for a year to do a job that we told him not to come and do, and now we're going to – it's just the state of the fan base. Bitch if we're hung with new ropes. But it's going to happen. So you pay him. He's going to stay. Resign yourself. He's going to stay. And I hate to say it, but unless you sell him, it's smart business.
How many games will he play next season? Just peer into next season for me.
Barring injury, none. I do not think he starts a game, plays a game, gets on the bench. He's going to be buried in the reserves. But if there are injuries, if somebody's not, if we don't get enough midfielders in, and that's the other thing too. I wouldn't give him his walking papers until we filled the midfield. All this talk, get him out of here. Get it once the FA Cup is done and the season's over, and we turn the calendar over to 2020 to 2020, 2021 season. Good God. These numbers will drive me nuts. At that point, if you've got enough midfielders and you feel comfortable that we've got enough, we can survive the injuries, then you move them on. But if you don't sign any midfielders, or if you only sign one,
but we are baking ourselves into such a bad situation and making us feel like we are on the back foot, right? Like, why should Arsenal be dependent on one guy to protect our injury crisis? I mean, he comes up with mysterious injuries all the time, right? Now, the point is not just him playing or having a bomb body, but it is, and not about him creating, some sort of disharmony in the locker room. But we've got young talents, right? Like, what we are talking about is Arsenal has got a host of young talents, and the young guys look up to the seasoned pros to see how they conduct themselves. And do we want them to learn from Mesut Ozil that it's fine to just collect your paycheck and be fine with it? And if they freeze you out, just
but Mesut Ozil isn't refusing to play. Therein lies the key. He's not refusing to play. We can speculate on injury all day long, but he's not refusing to play.
I mean, he's done that before, right? With his mysterious toe injury, his back injury.
No. Hang on. That's what we're being told. See, and on the one hand, we take what we want out of things and say, yep, that's gospel, but then take something completely different that we don't like or we don't agree with and say that's not true. So the mysterious injuries could be the club saying this is the way you protect the player and you don't throw him under the bus. That's just what you do.
But
I don't like it, but it's what they do. So the mysterious injuries.
Ozil's PR is enough that he would come out and say that there is something fishy going on with the club. He was not the guy who would stand back, and that's not just the point. You get him off the books, and your party line is supposed to be you will not pay $350,000 to anyone.
You're going to pay the money. You're going to pay the money.
The next guys that we bring in will use Ozil's salary as a benchmark. You don't want that. You say that that's not even here. Just forget about it. We've cut our losses. It's done. Now, this is what our basis is, and this is how we go about conducting it. Sometimes you have to take a step back to take 2 steps forward. Why don't we do that?
Yeah, you got me on that one.
Let me go to Stan.
All right.
Have you ever seen the like of a player, Ozil, who's milking the club?
Well, I've just been sitting there waiting patiently because you lot know that there's no way that I'm letting you change the subject until I've had my say with Ozil, right? So I'm just waiting.
I'm coming to you. I mean, I've never seen a player in all my years. I've never seen a player who's just. He's literally clocking in and picking up the money, and he's not putting anything on the
Now, before I get to Mesut, right, let's go with Guendouzi first, right? Let's get that one quickly out of the way. For me, it's quite simple. We've been told we've got a self-sustaining model, right? So we bought the young lad for next to nothing, right? Under 10 million, I believe. If we can turn a profit with him for maybe 30, 35 million and maybe use him as a make weight to bring in someone like Thomas Partey, building into the fact that it's obvious that him and the manager, for whatever reason, it's just not happening. He obviously rubs Mikel Arteta up the wrong way. And it seems like he rubs more people than just Mikel Arteta up the way. Edu as well. They've all been in there talking to him.
I'm not waiting around for Tony. Like Tony's going to wait around for his potential to come around. No, let's get a player instead of Guendouzi.
So, yeah, if we could turn a profit on him, that's the way it goes. And I know I've got a feeling that when we look back at his career, maybe in 10 years' time, his career will go the same way as someone like Mario Balotelli or Nicolas Anelka. He's going to be a journeyman. He's 21 years old, and Arsenal are now the 3rd club to show him the door. 2 of those clubs, right, Arsenal and Paris Saint-Germain, are big clubs for a youngster to be at. A great opportunity to be at to start your career. And he's been shown the door. So he's going to end up, for me, I guarantee you look back at his career, it's going to be like Mario Balotelli. He's always going to be taken on by managers who think that they can tame the fire, and he's going to, and he'll probably have some good relationships with manager, and then he'll do something stupid like set fireworks off in his house. Something ridiculous, and then he'll have to get moved on. Do you know what I mean? It's always something like that. It's always something like that's going to happen. Mesut Ozil, though, do you remember all those years ago when that journalist came out and he wrote that article about Mesut Ozil, and the heading was something like Mesut Ozil nicking the living? I remember what the journalist's name was, and everybody went mad. How dare you? Mesut Ozil nicking a living. Again, hindsight's a beautiful thing, isn't it? Because he's bang on. He's bang on. The guy is nicking a living, and I agree with I agree with Tanner with that. Arsenal aren't going to buy out his contract, but not for the reasons that he says. Arsenal is stupid, right? This is the way that they'll think, right? We're not going to buy out his contract and just let him walk away. We can't afford to do that. We can't afford to do that, and it'll be sending the wrong message. But meanwhile, they won't play him anyway, and they'll still keep paying him the money. It's oxymoron behaviour. We can't just pay him off to get rid of him, because that'd be a waste of money. You're wasting money by keeping him and not playing him. Do you know what I mean?
He's holding a spot that someone else could have.
Also, as well, you know, I know that kind of said, you know, if he's a body, and we might use him, but we're going to have someone like Emil Smith-Rowe be back in the squad. We've got this young Dan Smith now who's sniffing around the squad. I guarantee you there'll be one or two others that will shine over the pre-season that will probably be hanging around and training with the first squad. And what I predict is this: is that he's holding his breath at the moment, Mesut Ozil. He knows how to play the PR machine. You wait now. You wait till after the FA Cup, right? When the season is properly finished, and we go into that 3 weeks where the season's going to be down. That's when he's going to start seeing the stories coming out from his agent, and you're going to start hearing a little bit more of what's happened behind the scenes to poor Mesut, how he's been marginalised, how he's been working hard and has been ready at every opportunity to play, but he's being frozen out. There's going to be a spin story that will come out to rock the boat even further in this relationship. I don't think the season's going to finish, and it's just going to be all silent. There's going to be, you know, a few pre-season games. New faces will come in, people will leave, and then the new season will kick off, and it will just carry on as it is. Mesut Ozil will still be being paid, nothing's been said, and he's just in the background. There's going to be another story to come, because that agent of his just can't help himself.
So what Andrew just said in the comment.
We're going to get off this a couple more minutes.
But what Andrew said in the comment, and again, I'm not advocating keeping Mesut Ozil. I want everybody to understand that I am not a massive Mesut Ozil fan.
You're not.
I'm looking at it. I am looking at this from a purely business standpoint.
Yeah.
That's it. That's and ownership is and ownership is going to look at it from a business standpoint. Go back up. Where's Andrew's comment? Getting rid will be the statement to say we're no longer a soft touch.
Yeah.
Sure, I get that. But it's not like we're handing him his walking papers and he's just going to walk out the door, because in those walking papers, you know what there's going to be? A check for 18 million pounds. So are we hard asses now, or are we just stupid because we gave him 18 million pounds up front and said, ta-ta, don't come back. We don't want you here. You know, so there are two sides to every story. So to Rowan's point, you don't want
what we do for when they get sacked. That is what happens, right? You pay them off and you let them go. Like that's what we did to Emery.
And you go and you get another coach. The coach isn't working out, so you don't just say, okay, don't come back, and then let the inmates run the asylum. Again, back to my point of as long as you replace him and you feel comfortable with your depth going into the following season, then sure. But understand as well, and Rowan, you know this because it's what you do for a living, and I'm not calling you out by any stretch of the imagination. He's going to get his money. He's going to get his money one way or the other. So, and there are two sides to every story here. Do we want the young players learning from him that you can just sit around and collect a paycheck? But the fact is, again, he's not refusing to play. He's not being chosen. So he's going to collect the paycheck no matter what. So
he's refusing to play.
You don't want the young kids to learn. You don't want the young kids to learn that, you know, you can just collect the paycheck and not play. But do you also want the young kids to see that, okay, well, if you don't fit into my plans, I'm going to bury you in the reserves. Also, what makes a young kid want to come to this club then if he sees something like that and say,
He is refusing to play. By making himself sick all of the time, whether it's backaches, finger aches, what have you. It's the same as Guendouzi. Guendouzi refusing to apologise and adhere to what the club are advising him, he's made himself unavailable to play. He's never got a broken leg and he can still run. He has made himself.
I'm going to make Stan very happy with this, with the next words that come out of my mouth. Everything that I hear from European sports media, I take with a massive pinch of salt. I did that just for you, buddy. But I'm not saying it's not true with Mesut Ozil. I'm not saying it is true. I'm just saying that whatever I hear from European sports media about this club, I don't just take as gospel, and I don't really lean one way or the other. The Matteo Guendouzi thing, I don't know if it's because he's refusing to apologize. That's a bit childish for professionals.
That narrative fits with the childish boy on the field. We see that on the field, the petulance of Guendouzi.
He's a childish boy. I mean, that's the whole problem. That's the whole problem right there, Tanner. He's a very childish boy. You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, the Guendouzi thing. Stan, you hit the nail on the head with Guendouzi. You're going to turn a profit on him no matter what, because we bought him for what, 8 or 9 million. You're going to sell him for more, so you're going to turn a profit. So I sell him. I'm not a big Guendouzi fan. Sell him.
Let's wrap up this Ozil thing.
Yeah. One last part as well. Can I just say, with Mesut Ozil, you don't have to just give him 18 million in used 20s in bin bags. You can just walk him out of the door and just say to him, you will continue to get paid every month like usual, your base salary, or however it is he gets paid, whether it's quarterly, 6 months, or every month, or whatever. You don't have to pay him up in a lump sum. You can still pay him each month. And then, if he's clever, he could take that, go to Turkey, and start playing for Fenerbahce for peanuts, and probably get a big mansion out of the deal, and go swanning it every weekend with the Turkish president, and have a lovely time, and still be paid by Arsenal. Do you know what I mean? He could work it in his favour if he really wanted to, and just go.
We could go on for this all day.
We could go on. That's why I'm calling a halt to this right now. On the subject of Ozil, I don't think he's a role model for any of the younger kids.
No.
At all. So his example is not something that should be held up to professional.
One last thing as well. Apparently, his statue's now been cancelled because the guy that was sculpting it couldn't get the job done because it was moving too much.
And Darren Boy, Game World, thanks for your great comments. Love it. You're enjoying the channel. A little bit of heated debate is always a good thing, and Ozil is likely to do that every single time. Somebody has said, I think Gunnar Land said, splits the fan base right down the middle.
I wouldn't say right down the middle. I don't think it's right down the middle. I think more Arsenal fans are keen to get rid of him, and count me in that group. I want him gone. Again, I just want to make it abundantly clear. I'm not an Ozil fanboy. I'm not advocating for him to stay. I want him gone. I'm looking at it from the business side of the story.
What about the 12% on my poll? That 12% on my poll.
12%. It's right down the middle. Give or take 30%. It's right down the middle.
Just in case those in the chat box don't know, I ran a poll about a week ago, basically saying, I can't remember what the question now was.
If Mesut Ozil leaves the club, are you following him?
Leave, so you're going to continue supporting AFC, or you're going to switch to the new club? And I had like maybe 3,000 votes, maybe a little bit more than that, and there was a 12% that said that they will leave Arsenal and they will follow Mesut Ozil to his next club. That's what you're dealing with.
Here's the thing: in any situation, when a new coach comes in, you're going to have older players that are not going to be on the journey with him. You're going to have younger players who will be on the journey with him. And Ozil is one of those players that's not going to be on the journey with him. But he's going to get paid his money, whether it's now or whether it's a year from now. But the club has made a concerted effort not to keep him. We'll see what happens on that subject. Let's look around what happened today in the Premiership. Tony, what was your big takeaway from what happened in the last round of Premier League games? Manchester United and Chelsea are in the Champions League.
Yeah, I was surprised Manchester United ended up finishing where they did. They had a lot better restart than I thought
Not
they would.
surprised they got another penalty as well, right?
Yep. How many do they have now?
I don't know, 18, something like that.
I think 19.
Usman, Leicester ran out of steam in the end, dropped out of the top four.
Oh, finally I can speak. Well, it's disappointing for Leicester.
The Ozil was
They're
a
like,
free for all. You could have gotten in there on the Ozil thing as well if you wanted to.
but the things I would have said, people were going to disagree with me, but I just said, let them build their own team. I'm not going to get involved in their problems. So, Leicester City, I'm just disappointed with them. It looked like they were about to get back into the Champions League. They were doing well for most of the season, and it looked like maybe at some point it looked like they were about to at least contend for the Premier League title. But I think it was after the lockdown that everything started to go down for them because the games were coming in thick and fast. I don't think they had the depth that they needed to play those games. Because I don't watch Leicester City's match, but when I look at the lineup from now and then, it always seems like it's the same lineup every single time.
Yeah.
You don't see anyone different playing in those matches, and that's why I think that must be their downfall for not reaching Champions League football. But at least they're in a Europa League place, so they can't be fully disappointed with that. But what they were doing from the start to where they are now, it has to be a kick in the teeth for them.
For you, Usman, has Brendan Rodgers' stock gone down a little bit in the last 6 months?
I wouldn't say his stock has gone down. I would have said when he came into Leicester and started doing well, it rose a bit. But ever since the lockdown, maybe it could have came down a bit. I wouldn't say it's completely gone down. But considering the job he's done for Leicester City, with people doubting him, I would say fair play to him. I don't think there'll be any other coach that would have come in and done the same thing he did. But I just throw my hat off to him and say, well played.
Rohan, Leicester City. If you're a Leicester City fan, Rohan, you're looking at Champions League football in January, February, and now you got Europa League football.
Well, Brendan Rodgers has bottled it the same way he did with the title with Liverpool, right? That's what he's done. He went on this massive run in which they won like 8 or 10 games on the trot, and they were comfortably third. I think at some point in like November they've been third until 2 weeks ago or a week ago, and then they've dropped out. And that's because they've had a horrendous second half of the season. Since the turn of the year, they've been absolutely, mediocre at best. And, which is why I wasn't bigging them up when we were playing them. We were the team on the up and they were on the down. And, I would have liked them to be in the Champions League because that would have meant that United is not there and that would have been funny. But it's okay. I mean, whatever. But what I do want to point to was in 2012, Wenger said that there are 5 trophies in England, right? It is the Premier League, the Champions League, finishing in the top 4, FA Cup and League Cup. And everybody made fun of him, everybody, including United fans, Chelsea fans, Jose Mourinho came out and he made statements about it, and now look at them celebrating, right? Like 8 years down the line, for them now top 4 becomes everything. So this is again how Wenger was ahead of his time, and he saw what the team was and how important that money was, and that we should be there. And we were discontent with that, right? Like we were always like, what's the point of being in the Champions League if you can't win it? If you're gonna go out in the round of 16. But now, what wouldn't we do to be in that stage? To play against the big guys, to get that money from there, to get that attraction, of the players from there. And we don't have it now. This is what this whole season has signified. But what I do want to say is, again, it's not like United or Chelsea had a lot more than us. Starting of the season, I thought that we had a better squad. You know, we should have done better. They finished 10 points ahead of us. At one point, United were comfortably behind us. When Jose Mourinho took over Tottenham, I think they were 8 points behind us or something like that, and they finished two places above us. So we have to take all of this into perspective. We need to get the guys in. This it has been a good half season worth of experience that Arteta has got. One more game, the most important game of this season. If we win that, it's going to cap it off to be a bearable season. That's how
Or decent.
it's not. I wouldn't go as far as to call it decent. I would just call it bearable. You know, that we haven't wasted the season completely, but going into next season, it is so important for us to.
But let's ask us. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Like here's a question. When we were in the Champions League, what have we done? So we haven't done anything. The last time we've done anything in the Champions League to say kudos to us, we've done something, was back in 2009 when we reached the semi-finals and played against Manchester United. That was the last time in the Champions League where I said, okay, even though we didn't win it, we did something to say, okay, fair enough, we deserve to be in the Champions League. But every other time we were in the Champions League, we weren't doing anything. And I'll say I'm one of those people that said, really, we're just getting in the Champions League, not doing anything. Because I can't. Now we're not in the Champions League, and I'll say maybe it is deserved, because what do we do in the Champions League apart from getting knocked out in the round of 16? That's why I would say, in order for us to make us feel like Champions League is anything worth anything for us, is by putting in performances in the Champions League, get into the latter stages rather than getting eliminated in the early stages. Getting through from the group, to me, kind of means nothing now, because even if we get through, we're going to go into the round of 16, play against literally anyone, and get knocked out early because we don't do anything. So,
basically, an avenue. It's basically a cash cow for the club. It's a stream of revenue for the club.
Exactly, it's just there for the money,
and
because
we did it for 20 seasons.
We also had the pull for the Champions League, right? Like, you know, the big players. Although we didn't invest at that point, but we could at least say that we were in the Champions League, and that's what it is. As a fan, it did not matter to me. You know, the couple of games in the group stage, the round of 16 that you played against the big boys, those were the highlights of the season. You know, those are the games that you remember. And so many times we've been unlucky. That time against Barcelona, when Van Persie got the red card, you know, we should have gone through that time. Against Monaco, we absolutely blew it. We should have gone ahead. You know, there have been many instances against AC Milan. We played and we just fell short by one goal because we had a disastrous first leg. You know, all of these opportunities were great, and you know, watching those matches, being part of those matches, you know, one of the most memorable matches of my Arsenal time in the recent past has been the game in which Wilshere ran the show against, you know, your Xavi and Iniesta and all of these guys. You know, those are the moments that we look forward to football for. It's not at the end of it. If it is just the trophy, then you wouldn't. You know, you can just look at the scoreline and then you know whether you've got a trophy or not. But it's the whole journey, right? Like, we follow it for the journey, and in the journey, that was an important stop, and people just like sort of got so used to it. They got used to the fact that we would cross the group stage. We used to get knocked out every time in the round of 16 because we crossed the group stage. There were so many teams. Chelsea, after they won the Champions League, the next season they were out in the group stage. Last season, Spurs were in the final of the Champions League. This season, they dropped out after the group stage. There have been so many times when these guys, I remember United has fallen out at the group stage, you know, but we never did that, right? And you know, those are the things that I personally would look forward to. It would be better if we won, but we didn't always win. But you know, that was at least a basis. And now we have to first get to that to think that we're going to go anywhere ahead. Do you think that the first time that we're going to qualify for the Champions League, we're going to be contenders for winning the Champions League? I think it's a long shot.
I mean, let me ask a question of everybody, just real quick. Would you rather advance through the group stage into the round of 16 of the Champions League, or not make it through the group stage and drop into Europa League?
You have to advance. For me, that is essential.
Let me ask.
It's a second-tier competition. The losers of it ratifies losers. The losers of of Champions League come into the Europa League. I don't want to
agree that. Once you're out, you should be out. That's it.
Well, if you finish fourth in the group, you're out. Yeah, but let me ask you this: would you rather reach the Champions League final and lose, or not reach it at all? This is just sheer curiosity. I'm literally going absolutely nowhere with these questions. It's just sheer curiosity.
For me, Tanner, I think you've got to be in it to win it.
Right. I've actually asked this question, and there are so many people who say, nope, I'd rather not even make it than get there and lose. That doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
That makes zero sense to me.
We all want to get there with the possibility, even if we're underdogs, to win it. Like we played Barcelona.
I mean, I'd go as far as to say, and I won't go over it again because you remember I done my little monologue on last week's show. I really don't understand fans that, that say, well, maybe it'd be good for Arsenal if we're not in Europe at all for a season. Look at what happened with Chelsea and look at what happened to Liverpool. And that's so asinine because there's so many factors around that are so different. When they dropped out of it, they only dropped out of it for the one season.
And they were dropping out of Champions League. We've been in Europa League 3 years on the trot now.
And plus they went ahead and invested in their squads as well. You've got to be in it to win it. You have got to be in it to win it. And as I say, for me, when fans say that, it's acceptance. You may as well say, "Oh, we're struggling in the league. If we were in the championship, we'd win that. Maybe we should drop down the league." I mean, where does it end? Where does it end? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, we can't win the League Cup. We can't win the League Cup, but if we're in the auto windscreen shield cup that they have 3 leagues down. I mean,
never been relegated.
In it to win it. And the more competitions that we're in, then obviously as fans, that's more games we get to see the Arsenal play. I mean, isn't that what it's all about? Watching as much football as you can. Why would you want to cut that number by not being in the tournament? I mean, I don't get that.
I want to point something out. There was a comment that was just there. It said the point of being in the Champions League so to get money so they could attract the players. I call that real BS because what's the point of us just getting money to attract players if we know we're going to sell them on further down the line? Yeah, that is the one. The point is we could attract the right players. Who wants to come to Arsenal now to fight them? Or who Arsenal can afford to buy right now?
You're attracting the right players so that you can sell them for better money down the line.
It's still, to me, it's still pointless because if we're in the Champions League, we should be there for a reason, and that reason is to go and win it. Every time I see other big clubs like Juventus, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, AC Milan, sometimes, but big clubs, they're there to go and win it. I don't want there to be there just for a journey. I mean, the journey will be nice, but what's the point of the journey if we don't put 120% in trying to get to the final? If we went to the final and lose, that's only when I would say, okay, we got to the final. Fair play to all of you for reaching that point. But now we should pull up our socks and try it again next season and do better. That's what Liverpool did in 2018. And I commended them for that. You lost 3-1 to Real Madrid because, 1, they're a better team. 2, you had a terrible goalkeeper. They went and did it again the next season. And what they do? They won the thing. I want us to be in the Champions League just to win it. I don't want to be there just to go through, get through to the next stage, get money. Because that doesn't mean anything to me right now. Like Stan said, he proved my point. If we're in a competition, we should be there to win it. I don't want to hear anyone say that, go there for the journey. Because the journey is going to be pointless if you do completely nothing in it. So at the end of the day,
I'm gonna channel my inner Herm Edwards. You play to win the game.
But
exactly.
Isn't there another?
Play the game. That's the point, right? You will never win if you play the game. You could win or you could lose. But if you don't play the game, you're gonna lose 100% of the games. It's like I'm going to quote MJ here to say, and that's Michael Jordan or Michael Jackson, to say that I've 100% of the shots that I've not taken, right? Who would have thought that Spurs were going to reach the final last season?
And I was going to quote Wayne Gretzky, and then I was going to dip out of here, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. But it was Wayne Gretzky who said, "You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take."
Yeah.
You've got to be there, and you have to be in the position to win. And Usman, your point is spot on, and it's with what Stan is saying with the defeatist attitude of, oh, hey, we're just happy to be here. No, we're thrilled to be here, but we're here to win. Period. And getting through to the group stage, and then just saying, okay, you know what, everything from here is gravy. No, it's not. Get out there and put in an effort and go try to advance and go try to win that thing. That's why you play. So that's
the only time. Okay,
I got it, Usman. I got to dip out of here, guys. So sorry, Usman. I'll catch your comment in the replay. So thanks, everybody. See you, Ray. Appreciate you having me on, buddy. Take care. See you guys.
And that's the thing.
So I was saying that the only time I'll accept anyone saying we're just happy to be there is a team like Leicester City, a team like Besiktas, a team like what they call PSV. Those are the kind of things I expect them to say, oh, we're just happy to be in it. Because let's be honest, no disrespect to them, but you don't expect those kind of teams to just come into the tournament and pull an absolute world-class journey and get to the final and win it. You don't expect it. Ajax tried last season. I know Ajax are a big team and they've won Champions League in the past, but if you compare their team now to how it was back in the late 90s, it's a major difference. They had players like Overmars, Kanu, Litmanen. I wish I could go on. They had players like them. And if they that was Ajax back then, but Ajax, if you look at Ajax right now, they trying to win the Champions League, it would be an absolute surprise. Back then, it wouldn't have been a surprise because they were an absolute big team. Those are the ones I expect them to say, we're just, no, not Ajax, but Ajax are the team to say they're just proud to be in the Champions League.
Take Ajax for instance. They have a great youth system. They have a wonderful club that can bring young players through. So you don't always expect that they're going to do great things in the Champions League, like we saw last year. So you're going to have instances like that. I think clubs are in the Champions League to gain money. You gain money to get better players. You get better players so you can sell the better players for even more money. And it's a business. And hopefully your business can complement your sporting strategy as well and win things.
I don't want to be in the Champions League just to be in there, but you need to be in there to try to win it. And you have to be in there, test the waters, compete against the best to know what your standard is, and then you will go one step at a time and you will go ahead. There are only a handful of teams in the world that are constantly in the semi-final stage, right? You have your Juventus, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich. Apart from this, teams come in, teams go out. You have teams that have a couple of years in, they go out. United had a couple of years, Chelsea had a few years, Liverpool has had their few years, and maybe Arsenal will also sometime have it. But I don't know where this borderline arrogance comes from to say that it's we will only go there once we have the best 11 in the world that we win. That's never going to happen. We will go there and we will get beaten, but that's part of the journey. And then the next year you learn from that, and then you go one step further, and then you go one step further, and then you possibly win it. We never won it.
And you know what, Rohan, I'm going to say something that I hope does not come true, but really, really good teams have to lose finals first before they can go on to bigger things. So that makes me really fearful.
They lose with Liverpool. They lost the Europa League final. They lost the League Cup final. They lost the Champions League final. And that's how they learned to be. They lost the Premier League by a point last season. That's how you get there. You will not get there one time and then become the champions. That's
So I really hope we can be like George Graham again and winning a trophy in his first season. Arteta can do that, hopefully, for the FA Cup final. Man,
I just wanted to what Usman was saying about, you know, attracting good players if you're going to sell them on at some point in the future. Sometimes I think that by doing that, that's how you actually build a winning side. If you invest in the right player at the right time and you know when to let them go at the right time, and I would use Liverpool as the example. I mean, it's fair to say that Philippe Coutinho was probably one of their best players at that time in that squad. And the amount of money that they bought him for, was it 7-8 million? Sold him for what, 120, 30, 40 million? It allowed them to be able to really strengthen that squad in key places. And now they're the best club in the world. That's their title. They've earned that title. So sometimes, you know, at some point we're going to sell Martinelli, for example. Yeah, at some point Gabriel Martinelli is going to leave us. And I'd like to think that when he does leave Arsenal, we will be bringing in, hopefully, around the sort of money that Liverpool got for someone like Coutinho. And that could be coming just at the right time to really, you know, sort the squad out wherever we may be at that time in that future, whenever that happens.
Yeah, I don't think the stakes will ever be that high, Stan, but we should get a big price for a Martinelli. We should cash in on Guendouzi instead of waiting for potential to come, and it's never going to come. Tony, it's never going to come. His price right now, his value right now is probably as high as it's going to be with Guendouzi for me. And that's the way to move forward. Final thoughts, Tony, before we get out of here?
Going back to where I never had a word on Ozil, just let him go out on loan, pay 80% of his wages, let him sign a big signing clause.
They've been trying to do that for 2 or 3 years now. It hasn't happened.
It can't be that hard to give him 80% of his wages. And
but doesn't the player still have to agree to go on the loan or not? Or can he just be sent? I don't know how that works. Can you just say, right, I'm sending you to Brentford to the end of the season? Or can he say, no, I'm not doing that? I don't know how it works in a loan situation, you know?
I think the player also has to agree for their personal development, right? You have a contract with them. I mean, unless the contract says specifically that you can loan them out to wherever, which would be great, you know, then in that case, you know, tell Ozil that we're going to send him off to some club in Norway, you know, where he doesn't see the light of day for 6 months in the season, and then he can play as much Fortnite in as much night as he wants. But, you know, I don't think that's going to happen.
Was that your final thought, Rohan? Finish with Fortnite. Usman, your final thought.
Basically, there's no way we're getting Ozil out of the club. He's going to leave. He's going to leave next summer because there's no one out there that's going to be interested in. No one that's going to pay the wages that he's on. The best thing for us to do is just see out the contract and let him leave on the free, because that is the most realistic possible thing that can happen.
Has it become a battle of wills between the player and the club?
Oh, yeah, looks like it.
Probably it has been.
Okay.
I think the problem stems from they're trying to play different ways, and Ozil doesn't seem to fit into those plays, because Ozil can only play an attacking midfielder. Before, he could play as a right-sided player, but he doesn't have like he wouldn't have like the pace or the trickery to just play in that kind of position. So, and I've been hearing people always saying that the number 10 position is becoming extinct. That's why those players are finding other positions they can also play in to stay within the plans. I think that's where the problem has come from. So, yeah, best chance Ozil leaving Arsenal is if he sees out his contract. And since he's going to be here, we might as well just make use of him. As for the Guendouzi situation, it's 50-50, because if people are saying that we should let him go, he could leave and he wouldn't become as good of a player as we all thought he would be, which would be a W. Or he could leave the club, go somewhere better, and do a Search Navry Part 2, which would be a big L for him. So it's basically you're walking on the edge of a sword, and you don't know which side you're gonna fall onto.
Yeah.
Because someone with Guendouzi's problem, I'm pretty certain there are other players with worse attitudes. I don't know. Some Portuguese Pepe, madhead, a crackhead that pretty much beats up players on the pitch, but somehow was still Real Madrid, one of Real Madrid's best centre backs in years. I mean, I don't know how that would work. He's been there for a long time. He's had these mental issues on the pitch, yet he stayed for like probably about 8 to 10 years. I'm just thinking, can't a problem like Guendouzi's be dealt with?
Yeah.
There may
Brian,
just be one other, I just thought there may just be one other option of Mesut Ozil that we may want to try, and that's if we can somehow coax him into the car, and then we drive up to the Dartmoor, and then we let him out, and then we just drive off. I don't think he's got enough in him to find his way back. I don't.
Mayer has been talking about that for at least 6 to 12 months. Yeah, for sure.
It's a thought. I'm just going to put it out there. It's a thought.
It's just thought. Rohan, we wanted to have a second final thought.
Yeah. So my second final thought, I think it's quite.
It's going to be a new thing. The second final thought.
But, yeah, second final thought is that I would want to show some respect on what Ozil should have been, which is David Silva, and he's played his last Premier League game right now. And I was quite surprised to see that over 10 seasons he's played 308 games. So he's played almost 31 games per season. I thought he'd have played less, especially since last season he was out with his baby situation and all of that. And such a classy player. Talking about that number 10 role, creative, has the desire, has the hunger. He, in terms of physicality, is like Ozil. He's not the strongest guy. He's not going to win you a lot. He's not going to, defensively be that strong. But he has that mental attitude of a winner. He's been one of the great servants to the Premier League, won 4 Premier League titles, and he's the guy that if Ozil had that sort of a career, he would have been a great at Arsenal, and we would have been sad to see him go rather than trying to push him out the door and trying to come up with mechanisms as to how he should leave. That's one person retiring, and the second one is Leighton Baines, who's retiring. FPL god, the Fantasy Premier League god. His free kicks, his penalties have been great over the years. And every year when these players retire, it feels like one part of my childhood sort of goes away, right? Like, because since I've been following these guys, some of these guys just started, some of these guys came into the league, and then they've sort of matured and they've come to their prime, and now they've ripened, like Xabi Alonso said, right? They're like fruits, they just ripen and they fall off the tree. So it's they've been great servants to the Premier League, and although they're from rival teams, it's been a great pleasure to watch them, especially David Silva. So, let's hope that Arsenal get a player like him sometime.
Like I said earlier, I don't think we can hold Ozil up, especially in the last 2 or 3 years, as being a bastion of something that young or older players should look at. And that sounds scathing, but it's unfortunate. Dan?
No, I'd agree with you.
You get your first final thoughts, Dan.
My final thought is, my first final thought and my last final thought is, we're in the FA Cup final next week.
Yeah.
And we like that cup. It's 13 times now that we've won it.
Yeah.
And I just want to leave my final thought is, this has been a season that I can't wait to see the back of. Just for so many reasons, right? And in all the time I've been supporting the club, I can remember saying to people over the last few months, man, this is probably the worst season I can ever remember for football, and even the state of Arsenal. We've had the shutdown and everything like that. But despite all of that, despite this being one of the worst seasons, somehow we've managed to sneak our way into a cup final. Do you know what I mean? We've got one game left, right? We've got one game left, right, where the manager, every player who wants to be part of Arsenal moving forward has an opportunity to try and somehow stake a claim for that, but with one game. There's 90 minutes at stake at Wembley where we could really pull it out of the bag, and before we know where we are, we're back into Europe next season. And I just think that by being in Europe, remember what Mikel Arteta said when he was asked about what we were going to do in the transfer market? He said he's planning for 3 scenarios. One scenario is that we're going to do some good stuff, and I think that scenario was whether we'd qualify for the Champions League. He said the next scenario is that we probably won't do as much as the first scenario, and for me that's the Europa League. And he said the third scenario is that we probably do nothing. And that's probably non-qualification for Europe unless we, and we make money from what we sell. So I think it's vital that, someone like Aubameyang wants to be part of Arsenal and see us move forward. He's got to perform on that next game. He's got to help us get through to that next game. It's vital. So that's my final thought. I'm looking forward to this last game. It's all within our hands.
Tony, we got DWTT, which is don't waste that tweet. If Manchester City want Danny, isn't for a starting role or backup? Tony?
I imagine it'd be for a starting role. The rumors started picking up the last few days that they're interested in him. I hope.
To Stan's point, what would Spurs do if they were in the FA Cup final? Probably mess it up.
All too late.
And we can have a terrible season. We can be in 8th place, which mirrors kind of what Liverpool did 5 years ago. Hopefully, we're on that road. But let's not forget, Jurgen Klopp finished his first season in 8th position. There's similar echoes to what Arteta's doing. I hope we can do something similar. This is my first and final thoughts. And Bournemouth, Watford, and Norwich unfortunately get relegated today. Aston Villa benefit from a blown VAR decision with Sheffield United on the first game of the restart. They should have probably been beaten. Would have changed some things. But I want to thank everyone I want to thank the 5 panelists, Tanner, Stan, Usman, Rowan, and Tony. And I want to thank everyone in the chat. Darren, The Assembled, Steve, Gunnar Glenn, Everton's the best, Carol, and Andrew. So I know there's more people in there, but really was a fun one today. We go to a cup final. There's so many echoes from 2017 for me. We got Chelsea again. We're going to probably be the underdogs. I can't see the Assembled saying we're odds on, but I can't see how we're going to do that, how we could be. I think we're going to be underdogs. I think it's fated that Olivier Giroud is going to score a goal, and just hopefully we can score 2. And if somebody, I'm going to lose my shit if somebody scores off a diving header like Granit Xhaka or something like that, to mirror what Giroud did in 2017, right, Stan?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
That would be crazy. Until then, we won 3-2 against Watford, but 3 points off 6th place. We weren't good enough this season. We're scratching our heads, looking for where we could have got more points. But our last saving grace is this cup final. So we'll have a preview Thursday night on it. And if we win it, we'll be celebrating next Sunday. So join us then. Thanks everyone for watching. And until then, up the Arsenal. Come on, you Gooners.